Did you see that shit? MMA podcast. Hosted by mixed martial arts journalist Mike Strauss, aka Strauss21, and Chicago's #1 underground comedian, Apollo Taj Mahal.
Hey Mike,
What's up, bro?
did you see that shit?
What shit?
Turns out Chael Sonnen is right. Jon Jones is dumb. He is not a smart man.
It turns out he had his management team forge documents.
Yeah, and the thing he forged, he still could have not done and still been there. It's like he never went to his high school classes. I failed all of history, but I was there. I didn't have to forge my signature on that. He could have failed the USADA course and just signed still. I don't even think he really needed to pay attention.
You know, it's interesting, man. For those of you listening who don't know, I don't know why you wouldn't know, right?
I don't know. You know what? Some people don't, man. Let's let them know.
Jon Jones was in front of the California State Athletic Commission. He had a hearing for the Tribunal pop that he had.
T-ball. That's what we call it affectionately. T-ball.
That's what we call it in the gym, in the gymnasium.
Yeah, in the gymnasium. You get it from a dude who's from Russia.
Well, basically, the California State Athletic Commission, they voted 6-0 in favor of revoking his license. And the head of the California State Athletic Commission, Andy Foster, his recommendation was to totally revoke his license, which they did. And then they fined him $200,000 plus an additional $5,000, which equates to 40% of his purse from the second Cormier fight.
Dang.
What are your thoughts on that?
He's done.
Not necessarily, though. He could apply for a license as soon as August of this year.
Yeah, but they're not going to let him have it if USADA says anything different.
Well, it's now in USADA's court, so it's totally up to USADA. We'll see what happens.
The golden snitch, man, is starting to look like he might let him off.
You know, when he was on the Rogan podcast, it sounded that way.
So I've made it very well known on this podcast that I do not like the actions of Jon Jones or the things that he's been doing. I feel like he is a terrible representation of the sport. I feel he's a terrible representation of a champion. And I feel that he's a terrible representation as just a role model to kids.
He should seek out Stephen A. Smith.
He definitely should. You know what made me so mad is before I was coming here and we were and I was thinking to myself, I was like, ever since I seen Black Panther, I've been on this really pro-black life right now. And so I'm driving, I'm like, man, Jon Jones is a horrible representation of black men, and we work so hard to make good representation, and I feel that we're making huge strides, and then there's Jon Jones. And then you tell me about what was happening during the hearing, because you're a bigger man than me. I watched the highlights. Yeah. You actually sat down for 3 hours and listened to the most boring something they could have got done in 10 minutes, they did for 3 hours. So you're a bigger man. When you told me how that guy just kept bringing up Stephen A. Smith through the whole thing,
hilarious,
and it just yet again made me feel bad as a UFC fan.
Why?
That the one person you can think of in sports media is Stephen A. Smith. Really? That's gonna be our moral high ground on sports media.
He's an advocate for especially African American. Yeah, he just
that is a horrible representation of good sportscasting and especially good black sportscasting. I'm a fan of Stephen A., but I'm not gonna sit here and say he is the pinnacle of sportscasting.
He used the word advocate. He actually used the word advocate.
I can't.
Hats off to him. He was definitely the oldest guy on the panel. He was he was sick. He said it several times. He was sick and he was rambling, incoherent at times. Man, it was a very weird trial. That one lady, she just dug into him, man. I'm not a huge fan of Jon Jones and what he's done in the past. I think he's a talented martial artist, and I
one
love
of the
him
most talented martial artists of all time.
I'm not disputing that. I just think, outside of that, I'm not a big fan of him. But I will say this: that what that lady was bringing up, I felt that she was bringing up things she didn't need to bring up. They were touching on his sex life again, about that, and listen, the man paid his dues. You're supposed to be in this country. If you are brought up on a crime and you're found guilty, you do your penance, and then you do the time. And
you know
done.
what? I'm with you on that because I did hear a little bit of what she said.
Terrible.
And
she was digging into him
as much as I feel like
honestly,
I think sometimes a guy like that needs to hear all that all at once.
You don't think he's heard it before? I mean,
not even.
A rise.
Yeah, I think she's the wrong person to say it. But like, even on the Joe Rogan podcast, when he went on the Joe Rogan podcast, Joe Rogan really didn't even kind of like. I felt like Joe Rogan as a friend. This is something that a friend should have said to Jon Jones, not a lady at a court hearing. A friend should have looked at Jon Jones and go, "You're fucking everything away." Like, you are fucking everything away.
I don't mind her saying that.
No, and actually, like, dig into him about the things he's done wrong.
I don't mind that either.
Into that, but
when she brought up the whole his sex life and the sex pills and made him talk about that, and it's like, listen, things he's done that he has paid for, like the crimes that he's done.
Crimes.
If he's found guilty of a crime and he is given X to do or Y to do and he completes it successfully, then you should not be able to hold that against somebody anymore.
No.
If it's a victimless crime.
No.
If you're the only one involved and you paid your due, move on. You know?
You make a lot of sense on
and
that.
I don't like her, I don't like her bringing that up, and I just feel like she was looking for something and he handled it well. At times I thought he didn't handle it well at all. I mean, essentially his only defense was this: if I was using steroids, I would have probably been caught before this guy's, right? He didn't say those words, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But that's what it boiled down to. I'm too good.
And you know what? This really bugged me. He talks about, I would never do this. I would never do that. No offense, John. You brought no forth any evidence that you did it.
Zero.
They have two positive tests. Not one. 2 positive tests of this same substance in your body. You have been popped for an estrogen blocker, which can also, be linked to dick pills, but also can be linked to estrogen blockers. You have given no evidence that you did not take this pill. You have submitted no supplements that have that chemical in it. You have no substance saying that. And honestly, this chemical that was in your body is illegal. The only place you can get it from is Germany. It's not even a Mexican supplement. This is a German supplement.
Which would lead you to something they questioned him on, the people that you surround yourself with. Because, that close to fight time, you're only around your friends, your family, like he said, his very closest people. There was a time when the lady even said, have you thought about changing your management? And he said many times, and then he turned around and said, oh, I'm joking, and he laughed. But you got to wonder, is it time to maybe move on?
Dude, if I'm Jon Jones, and let's say I'm one of his brothers in the NFL, I am getting him a babysitter. I'm getting him...
He's the middle brother, too. Yeah, he's not even the youngest.
Yeah, he needs a babysitter.
Chandler.
This is exactly what I would do if I was a parents, friend, family. I would go to a church, find the most holier-than-thou guy, but he's huge. Like 6'9", can actually beat Jon Jones up. Not a lot of guys can do that. At least just hold him down.
Right.
At least hold him down. And I'm going to go, you stay with him. Make sure he does nothing. You drive for him. You check his drinks. You do everything you can. Because this is possibly Floyd Mayweather money type talent here.
Yeah, and he might piss it away.
You need to keep that boy out of trouble. He needs a babysitter permanently.
Well, as we said a little bit earlier, man, if things go perfect, if USADA just clears him and everything's good, he could reapply for his
fight Brock Lesnar.
Maybe.
I saw a picture.
Lesnar signed through WrestleMania, I think, which is in April.
Yep. So, ends in April.
And Jon Jones, if everything goes perfect, could possibly reapply in August.
And
but they can deny
Brock
him.
Lesnar needs time to get all the steroids out of his system.
Yeah. Well, you have to enter the USADA pool. I don't know if Lesnar is
3
currently...
months? No, he's not.
He got an exception last time.
Yeah, they're not giving him that again.
No, you're only allowed 1, so I don't know exactly how that would work. But, that whole Jon Jones thing is interesting, man.
You have time to get steroids out. You have time to get him reinstated. And then now it's time for money. But if you didn't know, guys,
You are listening to the Did You See That Shit Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. I am Mike Strauss, a.k.a. Strauss21, alongside
the world #1 underground comic. I'm getting cocky, guys.
There you go.
Mr. Apollo Taj Mahal. Yeah, that was the most grand entrance I could ever make. It's never happening again.
Follow us on all the social media, guys, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, whatever your favorite platform is. We will be on it. It is DYSTSP. There's a little underscore in between those. And just look for a little orange smiley face with poop in his eyes. That is us.
It's funny. Also, guys, if you want to just skip all that, get straight to us, go to didyousseethatshit.com.
You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, and as Apollo said, our very own website.
Didyousseethatshit.com.
Give us a call, 708-669-4777. And if you would like to get on the show, give us an email at mike@didyousseethatshit.com.
I'm not allowed to talk to fighters anymore.
You just have to get over here for interviews.
I know, dude. You know what? Work. And fighters should bend to my schedule now.
Well, speaking of bending to schedules, actually, it makes no sense. UFC Orlando last weekend. Very interesting fights.
Best UFC fight card on Fox
In a long time.
You know what? This is better than most pay-per-views. That's it. Might not have the names, but it had the performances.
There was good fights for sure. We'll start off with Jeremy Stevens, Josh Emmett.
I said it was going to be a barn burner, and that bad boy was a barn burner.
Definitely was. A second round TKO. We're going to talk about this in detail towards the end of the show, so stick around. But basically, a lot of controversy at the end of this one.
Yeah.
Did Stevens hit him with illegal elbows? Did he throw an illegal knee? What we know for certain is he did win the fight. He knocked him out cold. And as a result, Stevens now is the number 5 ranked fighter, and Emmett is the number 6 ranked featherweight in the world right now. So
this is very exciting.
It's crazy. Well, like I said, we'll get into it a lot more in detail a little bit later on. Jessica Andrade and Tecia Torres. What a fight, man. These two women are really elite.
They win it. You know what Jessica Andrade did? She didn't win at all on the feet. Like, she was getting tore up from the floor up. But she utilized those wrestling slams and took control of that fight.
It's almost unfair that she can make the weight.
It really is, because I honestly look at her sometimes and I go, if you really wanted to, you could make 135 and stay there forever.
She's fought there before.
I know.
She's fought at 135.
But she's just at 115 looks so scary.
It's unbelievable that she could walk around. I mean, I don't understand how she does it.
Her back, have you just seen her? She has that wrestling back of just.
I mean, and Tecia Torres fought a great fight. It's just, she's, Andrade is just.
What can you do about getting slammed? And you know what? Tecia tried on the ground. She tried.
Great fighter. Tecia Torres is all heart. She's definitely a top ranked fighter.
I could easily see Andrade, though, on any given day, beating anybody in that division.
Absolutely. I mean, she is very scary, very scary. How about Ovince St. Peru getting his lights choked out while he's standing?
Oh, my gosh.
Alir Latifi, round 1, standing guillotine.
By the way, that was the weirdest looking one, not because of technique-wise. It just looked so weird because Latifi was so short. And I was just like, is Latifi on his tippy toes? I honestly, I was just like, because
I don't know how he was able to do it. Ovince actually tapped, but the referee didn't see it. He wasn't in position.
And he just went
surprise, right? Yeah. And he went out, he tossed him, and he fell. That was, man. Latifi is now the number 5 ranked light heavyweight in the world.
This is making the light heavyweight division very interesting.
Yeah, these Latifis and Volkan Ozdemirs of the world.
I think Latifi needed to win, though. Latifi needed to win to help it out, because you can't keep having these young guys trying to crack into that top 10 or our top 5, and they keep losing out to the older veterans. Even though Emmett St. Peru is not old or a veteran, but he's
been there for a long time.
He's been there for a minute.
And I've always said, man, Ovince St. Peru has never really done it for me. I've never really seen what people see in him.
I don't think he's that
good.
It's not that I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's a true martial artist, because he's such a good athlete. And he hasn't been in the game that long. Man, Latifi, he's a true he's like
a bulldog.
Yeah, and he's just there's something about Latifi that says fight, and then something about Ovince St. Peru where I see a really good athlete. I don't see a really, really, really good fighter.
Yeah, how about Mike Perry and Max Griffin? That was a really fun fight. That was a war. Mike Perry constantly looking for that one-punch KO.
Mike Perry.
Max Griffin pieced him up.
Oh, my God. So,
the whole fight.
As impressive I was on Max Griffin, Mike Perry is the toughest motherfucker I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's a tough dude.
He did not go out. He did not go down like without a fight. And Max Griffin even talked about it. He said, that's one of the toughest dudes I've fought in a long time.
Yeah, he keyed him up for the whole fight.
And I really want Max Griffin back on the show because he has opened my eyes to what he really can do.
Yeah, well, you know, what's been big for Max is him being able to quit his day job and be able to train full-time now. It's really showing now in his work. His training is paying off. Definitely have him back on. I can't wait to see what the UFC's got in mind for him next. But
he's a tank.
On the undercard, man, Brian Kelleher, he got a big win over Renan Barao. Marion Renault triangle choked Sarah McMahon. And Sam Alvey shocked everybody by knocking out Marcin Prachniow.
That was a scary knockout too. Dude. It wasn't, and it was slick. It was that slide out, boom. Those one where the guy runs into it.
He said he was going to do it. That Prachniow just looked like he was deer in the headlights, man. He looked like he was not ready for the UFC.
And Sam Alvey, like, man, he got bull rush, but he stayed calm.
Well, yeah, Sam Alvey is a consummate pro. I mean, this isn't his first rodeo.
No.
Did you see the tweet that Colby Covington put out?
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
So it was directed to Mike Perry, and it was directed to his girlfriend, rather, about his horsed-faced girlfriend. That's what Colby Covington called Mike Perry's girlfriend. He said something about his horse-faced girlfriend being in his corner.
Being his trainer.
That's why you lost, and da-da-da-da. Wow.
Colby Covington.
Crazy words.
Now, so...
I guarantee you Mike Perry will not hesitate to smack the shit out of him if he sees him.
Well, we already know Colby Covington calls the police. No, he got a boomerang and called the police. So don't make me send Fabricio with that boomerang, boy.
Man.
Oh, he'll catch you in the streets. I got a picture I need to tweet.
Fabricio is a bully too, though.
Fabricio.
He has picked on small guys his whole career.
Luke Rockhold and everybody like that. But man, Colby, stop. You don't want that action. We already know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man, because Colby's 170, Mike Perry's 170, Max Griffin's at 170. A lot of killers there.
Scary, man. It's starting to look up.
Another guy that's going to be fighting at 170, Tony Martin.
Huh?
Yeah, the former 155er, now moving up to 170. Had a chance to speak with him, and, well, here is how our conversation went. Right now, I want to welcome UFC lightweight Tony Martin. He has a big fight coming up at Fight Night Atlantic City, April 21st. He's looking to get back on track against a very tough Nakamura. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? I'm excited. I'm actually moving up to welterweight for this fight.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to make the transition up, and I'm going to think that my performances I think they should get a lot better with me moving up in weight class.
If you don't mind me asking, man, how much weight did you cut at lightweight?
Well, so the issue after I cut down to lightweight, I balloon up because my body just retains absolutely everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get up to 205 pounds. But if I give my body 6 months to come back to normal, I normally walk at 86, 87. But the last fight, I fought before that, obviously, I fought Johnny Case, and then the UFC called me. They asked me if I wanted to fight on 3 weeks' notice. I said, absolutely not. There's no way I can make weight. And then they called me, 2 days later saying, all right, can you fight on 5 weeks' notice? And that was the fight with Olivia Mercer. And I was like, I liked the matchup. Obviously, I was 195 pounds. So 5 weeks out, I was 195 pounds. So I had to cut, 40 pounds, and it was just, I still feel like I have nightmares about the weight that fight. So I, talked to my camp. I moved out to ATT down in Florida now, and we discussed, do I want to stay at 55? Do I want to stay at 70? So then I told the UFC I want to move up to 70, and of course they come back, offer me a pretty good fight at 155. Yeah, so they offered me to fight Jim Miller, And I was pretty excited about it because I haven't fought a vet like that. He's had, over 20, 25 UFC fights or something like that. So
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I may take this fight just out of principle alone. So Mike Brown, I told Mike Brown at HT about it. And cause I already told the UFC I'll take the fight, because I like the fight. And he called my manager and was like, listen, Tony's fighting at 170. So I'm fighting at 170 now versus Nakamura. And I'm pretty excited about it. I feel great.
I think the move to 170, man, I think that's going to be good for you. I think you're seeing more and more guys kind of shy away from that. You see the success of guys like Dos Anjos. Look what he's been able to do. I think that's the right move for you. I think the road to a championship is a little bit easier for you in the welterweight division. I mean, there's still killers there.
Right.
The lightweight's a little different. I wanted to ask you, you brought the ATT up. I saw that you had moved down there. That's something I wanted to talk to you about because ATT probably one of the handful of, best gyms in the world, right? So how have they been able to take you to that next level?
Honestly, so far, I feel like, my biggest hole is just strict wrestling. I feel like my chain wrestling and all that. I mean, I'm a good grappler, obviously. I feel like I'm a high-level grappler. But I feel like that chain wrestling is what is a big game I'm missing. And out here, that's all they do every day is wrestle. So I've already wrestled more since I've been here than I've wrestled in the last 3.5 years.
Wow.
So I think just the wrestling alone is going to be a huge impact. And obviously, I also moved out here because I knew I needed the best bodies in the world, the best fighters in the world. And that's what they have an abundance of. So every day, you're in there with the top fighters in the world, which is big because now the things that work, that they work before you go into fights. Or, I feel like at the smaller gyms that I've been at, you can kind of, a lot of the guys, you can just do whatever you want in a way and get away with obviously using bad technique or things that might work, but you get in a fight and it doesn't work. But, down in AGT, if it doesn't work in training, don't expect it to work in the fight. It's kind of that part's big. Obviously the coaches, we're still building a rapport with each other. And, I've been, trying to work every day, 2-3 times a day with them. So, so far I'm loving it. I'm having a blast out here. I think that, the training's great. I'm pretty excited to see how the future unfolds with me being out there.
I was taking a look, man, back through some of your fights, and the Felipe Novar fight, man, in January of 2013, I felt like that was like a turning point for you. What do you feel was like the fight where you felt like you first put it all together?
I think it was the Felipe Oliveri fight. I think it was the Felipe Oliveri fight is when I felt like, I was able to mix in I tried to wrestle right away. That didn't work. And then I went back to all my striking, and I started landing really good combos. And then obviously I got him to where, he thought I was just going to be striking. And I got back into my grappling, and then I finished that fight in that way. So I think the Felipe Oliveri fight was the biggest one. And then obviously he also popped up for steroids at that fight. So that was also, a nice little pat on the back.
The steroid thing just doesn't sit well with me. I'm sure it doesn't sit well with you and all the other people that are clean in the sport, man. There's, USADA's a really good thing. I mean, I hear from a lot of guys though that it's super invasive. Where do you kind of fall on that?
No, I mean, I feel obviously I'd like people to get tested more often. Even as long as you're not cheating, I don't see any fault in it. But obviously sometimes it could be inconvenient. Sometimes it's tough to, you forget that, I got to tell USADA that I'm going out to Vegas or I'm going here, and that part gets a little annoying. But, the only thing obviously, is just we had no choice. It was kind of a thing that they just implemented, and you had no choice in the factor. And so that part is the thing where, you always want the fighters to have a choice, have an opinion. But I'd say most fighters are probably happy with having USADA. I mean, it definitely helps even the playing field and help, regulate the sport more. But I like USADA. I mean, I think it's good for the sport. I think, there's a lot of stuff going on out there that I feel like there was a lot of cheaters in the sport. And hopefully, they're helping clean it all up.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a step in the right direction. We've, not to name any names, but we've all kind of seen certain people who pre-USADA were kicking ass and kind of post USADA, well, they're just, they're not the same, right? It's,
You've seen some major fall-offs, yeah, that's for sure.
yeah, more than just a couple. I was looking through your Instagram. I was kind of creeping on your Instagram the other day, man, and you post a ton of quotes. What is one of your more favorite inspirational quotes out there?
I was just watching Any Given Sunday.
It's a good movie.
And I was listening to his quote about, how every inch in life matters. So that was kind of that was the first thing that when you said that popped into my brain was, just inch by inch, everything happens. So you can't cut corners. And that's what I just like is there is no cutting corners. And that's kind of life in general is just, you got to keep clawing inch by inch. And whoever fights the hardest for that inch is going to win. So that's probably one of my favorite quotes, I think.
Yes, sir. A very underrated movie too. I feel like that movie doesn't get the respect it deserves. Among the really good movies. You're pretty active on Instagram. Do you want to let everybody know where they could follow you at?
Yeah, you can follow me at TMartinMMA. That's my Twitter, Instagram, and then you can follow me at Tony Martin MMA on Facebook. And I still got to get a little better with my social media, but I'm trying to work on it. I get harassed daily by people, but hopefully it gets better.
We all do. It's people don't realize this shit's time consuming. It really is, man. You get drawn into it.
I don't like to preach the same stuff, or I don't know. I feel like I think some crazy thoughts sometimes. So I'm just like, maybe it's better off just posting on social media. So.
Well, it's definitely a good thing to have that filter. Before I let you go, man, we kind of have a little tradition here. Could you say this is Tony Martin and you're listening to the Did You See That Shit podcast?
This is Tony Martin and you're listening to Did You See That Shit podcast.
That's it. Okay, so you see, man, I think the move up to 170 for Tony is going to be a very good move.
205.
Right, isn't that crazy?
205.
His body goes crazy. I mean, you can see how, think about that. Every few months, you're losing 40 pounds, gaining it. Your body's going to go crazy, man.
205. Yeah. No, that's not 40 pounds. He's losing 50 pounds.
That's a lot of weight, man.
50 pounds. Listen, I've been trying to lose 50 pounds for 4 years. 50 pounds for 4 years. He loses in a couple months.
It's like a Nutri-Slim commercial.
Oh my God. Can we listen? Use these headphones. You'll lose 50 pounds. I don't know how I'm going to sell some shit with his before and after, but I'm gonna.
UFC 222, man. Cyborg versus Kunit Saya is coming up this weekend. We're not going to get into it too deep because we're going to have our prediction episode coming up. But also on that card, Edgar Ortega and Stefan Struve, Andrei Arlovsky. So there's also a couple of other really interesting bouts on there. But let's just talk about these three. Which one of these fights are you most looking forward to?
Frankie Edgar and Brian Ortega.
Why?
Brian Ortega, I've been doing a lot of research, and I'll explain more when we do our predictions next episode. But Brian Ortega, doing a little research on him, seeing the countdown, really made this matchup a little more intriguing. If it ends up being like the Yair Rodriguez fight, then, good job, UFC. You're promoting Got Me Again. But I'm very excited about this one.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that one, too. I'm a huge Frankie Edgar fan. I think Cyborg is going to do what Cyborg does.
Yeah, I'm not even worried about that one. It's really sad.
Struve and Arlovsky should be fun. But, this Ortega-Edgar fight is really, it's really got me going. It's really got me looking forward to it. You mentioned the countdown. I watched that, too. And, that showed a side of Ortega I really hadn't seen before. So I'm interested to see this one play out, man, and see how this fight week goes.
I hate to say, man, I'm a huge Frankie fan, but I'm rooting for Ortega.
So, Apollo, man, so many fights have been made these last couple of days, both Bellator and UFC. UFC just announced they're going to be going to Santiago, Chile for the first time ever, May 19th.
Exciting, man.
They already announced a handful of fights for that event. And UFC 225 here in Chicago is starting to take shape, man. 2 more fights were made. Joseph Benavidez and Sergio Pettis.
Ooh.
Decent little scrap there. And then a heavyweight fight, Rashard Coulter and Alan Crowder. I am super stoked about that one because I have talked to Rashard Coulter on several occasions, and I've already reached out to him when this fight was made, and we'll have him on a couple of episodes.
Right when you heard he was on there, you're like, you need to watch everything.
He's a entertaining fighter. He gives you every ounce of everything he's got every time he's in there. So I'm super excited to have him in Chicago, and I'll be super excited to be talking to him in a couple days.
Same.
Hopefully you'll be there for that one.
Oh, I'm clearing my schedule for you, big boy.
And then Bellator, man, not to be outdone.
Wait,
right?
hold up. Pause.
So they announced some big fights for their 200 card in London. Phil Davis, Lenton Vassell, Michael Venom Page, David Caveman Rickles, Rafael Carvalho, Gegard Mousasi for the 185-pound title. And then Bellator 198 in Chicago. Emanuel Sanchez gets a co-main slot against Sam Silica.
Ooh, this one is fun, man.
Very excited about that. And you know what's crazy, man, is I was just talking with Emanuel Sanchez, and I had asked him about this card.
Oh, this is the one
card
that you couldn't tell me much about because he couldn't tell us much about?
Yeah, I asked him, and you could tell so badly he wanted to say it, but he couldn't.
Yeah.
So here's the conversation with Emanuel Sanchez. All right, and I want to welcome Emanuel El Matador Sanchez to the show. He's a featherweight fighter with Bellator. He's got a record of 16-3. He's won 6 out of his last 7. But what does El Matador have going on this year? What's going on, man?
Doing well. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, anytime. I think you're one of those guys in Bellator that's right there at the top. You've been there for a long time, and I think this is the year you get your shine, man. You looked really good in your last fight against Daniel Strauss. Were you happy with the way that you performed?
Yeah, obviously there's always room for improvement and for a better, how could I word this, a better performance, I could say. But, I was dominant from the first round to the last round, bell to bell, from minute to minute. I was out there, and I executed my game plan. I was able to, beat them everywhere. I wanted to beat them standing on the ground, wherever the fight went. I wanted to just be dominant and show that, I have that world champion caliber in me as well, and, that I will have that belt one day as well, too.
Has Bellator, have they offered you any other fights yet?
That is in the future, yes. I know I have to wait because Patricio got hurt. So Patricio and Daniel have a score to settle. And once that goes down, I'm knocking on the door for a title shot. So I know right now there's many different guys, but they still, have yet to have a stern test to go up and prove that they're the number one contender. And I believe, I've kind of had that number one contender spot with me for the past 5 fights. So I'm ready to go whenever the opportunity is there.
Yeah, I mean, you're right there. If you're looking at that division, there's not many guys that have a better argument than you, for that top spot there. I wanted to ask you, man, because Bellator, they're coming back to Chicago here in April. Would that be something that might work out for you in terms of when you want to fight next?
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, I can't say, anything, but they will announce soon.
Okay.
I got to shine in Chicago last year, so, I'd love to be on that one as well, too. So when they announce, we'll be able to spread the word and spread the love and be able to promote it as much as possible. But that is most definitely something that I want.
Well, that sounds good to me, man. I hope they get you on that card. You mentioned him a little bit earlier, Patricio Pitbull. He's the champ. Besides him, who else do you feel that is on your level? I mean, Strauss you already took care of. There's McKee, there's Pico, there's Gallagher, but those are all young bucks. I mean, you're young too, but those are the even younger than you. So who do you feel is really on your level besides the champ?
Mm-hmm. You said that right, and that's something I'd just like to clarify for everyone who hears this. They're young bucks. Yeah, of course. I'm young too. They're I'm given 3-4 years of age, 5 years at most probably. But I know I'm one of the youngest guys still on the roster. I'm obviously not under 25, but I'm right there. And they, good point. They have shined, but they have yet still, like one of the guys I mentioned earlier, to have a stern test and be able to come out and have someone on the former champion level or at the UFC Bellator high caliber level, at the highest level that there is, They have yet to face someone who's been on the top for a while. And you look at my last, 7, 10, pretty much all my Bellator opponents, you've seen that all of them have, twice as many fights as I do, more experience, everything. So who do I believe is on my level? I'd have to say just the veterans. You look at Curran, Weichel, Strauss, Pitbull. These are, I like to say, the OGs of Bellator, and I think they'll still shine for many moons to come. But I can see a bright future for McKee, Gallagher, Pico, Adam Borics. Whoever's up and coming right now. I see what they're trying to do, and I like it. It excites me because to me it's like, all right, I have these toughest fights that got me to this level. Win the belt, that's what I want, and then these guys are going to be title defenses. So I know that they're in the near future. So we're going to make that happen.
Those sound like exciting future title fights for sure. How does it feel, man, to see like Goldie come in, to see Big John come in, Jay Glazer, all this change that's happening, man? Does it feel different?
Yeah, it really does. The whole landscape, how much it's changed. And I kind of wanted that, and I knew that, and I was just like hoping for it. Because obviously, upon first signing with Bellator, I spoke to my coach, who's also my manager, Duke Rufus, and I'm like, as long as they don't have the tournament anymore, Coach, because I know we don't want to do that. And also as long as I stay active, because I didn't want to only fight once or twice a year. I wanted to stay active. And sure enough, that's exactly what they've been doing for me. I've stayed very active, stayed very relevant, had very tough fights on short notice. And it's good, though, because that's what made me. That's what got me to where I'm at today. And now, I'm always looking for an even better performance for the next one out, and that's exactly what's going to happen.
For sure, man. You mentioned Rufus Sport. Just in a couple words, man, what makes Duke so, I don't want to say better, but just what makes Duke so different and so good for you? What makes him, fuck it, I'm just going to say better. What makes him better than everybody else?
Yeah. The truth is, man, is just that he's very close and intimate with everyone he trains. He really builds a strong relationship. With whether it be CM Punk, Anthony Pettis, Eric Koch, Sergio Pettis, myself, even guys that aren't signed or up, that are working their way up right now. Rafian Stotts, victory, bantamweight champion. We have Askar, who's the flyweight Titan FC champion.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
thing with Bilal. Paul Felder coming in. We got guys on guys. And for us, it's not like, not discrediting in the other camp or whatever. It's not like a big a Greg Jackson camp or ATT. We don't have guys from all over the world. I mean, we do on occasion, but it's not like, they really have their home here,
Mm-hmm.
They might come through and train and try it out, but for the most part, anyone who works with Duke, ends up staying with Duke because they know they can relate and they have they build a strong relationship with him, coach and a fighter. That's the most important thing, If you don't have a really intimate, I'd say is the best word, strong relationship with your coach or mentor, someone who's, leading you into battle, sharing victories and defeat with you, and helping you, then, you're kind of lost, And that's the thing with Duke. It doesn't matter who you are, on the amateur level, the highest level of the UFC, mid-level, upcoming, whatever, he's always there helping anyone on the pads, on the bag, and that's all our coaches here, We don't look at someone as an outcast or just someone who's here like, yeah, whatever, kind of a deal. Everyone here is, when they become with us and they want to train with us, they become part of the team, And it goes to show you got all these guys coming from all over wanting to make their home here, like Paul Felder and John McDuffie here right now, So it's really great. It's something really great to see, and you can see how well Duke works with everyone with the results on fight night. Training videos, they relate to the from fight night, and in victory or defeat, Duke is there. He's not a guy who's just out searching for money or out searching to make it. Rufus Sport, such a big academy where you got, you need dorms and stuff like that for guys from all over. We got our strong crew here, and it's a wrecking crew.
It definitely is, man. No, I've said for a long time, I think Duke is one of the best in the game, but he doesn't have the ego that some guys have, some coaches have, so he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves sometimes. But guys that know the sport, they know how good Duke Rufus is, and you guys have something special there, man, no doubt. You mentioned Paul Felder. He's got a hell of a fight coming up against L.I. Aquinta. That is going to be a war. I can't wait, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see Paul had, a breakthrough year. What a year, He felt like he was on a kind of a spiral or like a down edge. He just, felt like he was just there. And now, Duke uplifted him, and 3, finishes in a year, 2 in the first round, and he's just done tremendous. And then you got, John McDessie, who was, the same thing with him, what he was feeling. He said it was a spiral and a rough patch in his life and career. And, Duke really made training fun again. And then, he's in love with martial arts and excited to want to go out and fight, excited to want to train, everything, And that's same thing with Tyron Woodley, And Patton came 1-2, and then boom, won the belt, So Tyron comes through, and he knows he sees Duke's tutelage and methods, and it's really great, man, to see Duke be able to help that with people and make training fun. And it's hard because this is a very cutthroat business and sport, and rigorous, strenuous, painful on the body, etc. And it's very repetitive. But through these doors, it's all fun and games, man, while we're, in the pursuit of greatness and just dividing and conquering, beating everyone in our path to go out and be the best.
Where can everybody follow you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at Matador Sanchez. I'd wanted my Twitter the same, but it's not, unfortunately. Someone stole the name at Matador Sanchez, but it's at El Matador 145. And my Facebook page is Emanuel Matador Sanchez. And I got my regular Facebook page as well, too. And, yeah, you can find me on there, and I'll follow me. I'll follow you back. Double taps on me. I'll double taps on you. Leave a nice comment. I'll leave a nice comment on you. Leave a mean comment. You get blocked. I'm not going to fight back. But, spread love and spread peace, everybody.
I hear you. Well, I appreciate your time, man. If you could, man, we kind of have a little tradition here. If you could just say, this is Emanuel Sanchez, and you're listening to the Did You See That Shit podcast.
Hi, everybody. This is Emanuel Matador Sanchez, and thank you for tuning in to Did You See That Shit podcast. And wait till you see my next fight. Did you see that shit? It's going to be crazy.
I appreciate it, brother. Much respect.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it big time.
Okay.
I'm never trusting him with a secret.
Well, he definitely didn't say it. But,
he didn't say the exact words, but
I could tell
it's
that he wanted
like
to.
It's kind of like when you talk about sex with your friends for the first time out in public. It's like you don't say the words, but you said everything within it. You make a couple hand motions, body motions, all that stuff. Yeah, no, he told us. He just didn't say the words. So I'm going to say he released it here first.
There you go. He comes from a really good camp, Rufus Sport. Been talking to a lot of Rufus Sport fighters, it seems, more and more lately. A really solid camp. I'm really happy.
Won my first jiu-jitsu tournament there.
Really?
Yes, right down there. Won it. I didn't submit anybody, but I won on points, so I'll take it.
Hey, a win is a win, man.
A win is a win.
I hope to be going up to the Rufus Sport in the near future and doing a couple of things.
We're definitely going up there, man. I love that place.
So, yeah, Rufus Sport is a great camp. Team Alpha Male is another great camp, and I was really surprised to find out that Justin Buchholz left Team Alpha Male.
Yeah, that was a really strange one.
What the heck? What the heck?
What the fuck? Fuck.
He's been there for a long time. I guess there was a lot of turmoil that's been kind of brewing under the scene there for a long time, and
they
just
seem
parting
to
ways,
keep
man.
having this drama, man.
Gonna be weird to see what kind of comes out for that.
Yeah.
So we talked about it a little bit earlier. Emmett versus Stevens. What is your take on how this fight ended, man? It was crazy.
So a fight is a fight. Mm-hmm. Things happen in fight that are chaotic.
For sure.
Especially a barn burner like Stevens versus Emmett.
Mm-hmm.
Things are going to happen in fights like that, such as the Eddie Alvarez fight and the
Wyman Musasi.
Wyman Musasi. Those kind of fights where you're in the heat of the moment, you do crazy things and crazy things happen. Limbs are flying, punches are being thrown, knees are being thrown.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like to me when Stevens threw that knee, the hands were on their way up. It looked like Emmett was going to grab for the legs. So that means it's not a ground opponent. Go for that knee.
It's not true, though.
It's not true. A ground opponent is hands.
No, it's not true.
It's hands and knees, I thought.
No, see, this is where everybody is misunderstood. In both the new rules and the old rules, if one knee is touching the ground, you are a down opponent. So you could have both hands in the air.
This whole thing has been so confusing.
Exactly.
They need to clear this up.
It's a joke because there's no such thing as the unified rules. But listen, this is the fact. Whether you're going under the old rules or the new rules, He was downed.
He was still
He was
grounded.
downed. Doesn't matter.
So then it
By
goes.
rule, he was downed.
It goes to did he get hit with it?
Not true. He clearly got hit with it.
So-
he got hit with it on the way up and the way down. And then I know what you're going to say. Then it goes to how much. No. Not true.
No. Once it's an
He
illegal
touches.
illegal hit does not matter
Counts.
about
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter about damage or any of that. It matters if you got hit with it.
Yep.
I do feel that Emmett was on his way out.
He was getting teed up before it, no doubt.
he was getting teed up.
But then you go and look at where those elbows illegal.
Correct. And that's another issue. So I feel, and I don't blame Emmett at all for anything that happened.
He didn't do anything.
He didn't. He just fought. Sorry, Stevens.
Yeah.
I don't blame Stevens at all
I
for
don't
what
either.
happened.
I don't think he's a dirty fighter.
No, I don't think nothing has ever indicated him being a dirty fighter.
No, I don't think he is.
I think crazy things happen. It is the ref's responsibility to make sure that those things do not happen, and when they do happen, that they're taken care of accordingly. And whether for the elbows, definitely you need to break that up immediately and decide what you're going to do. Either take a point or warn. I don't think those elbows were illegal enough to where I would disqualify. But that knee can easily be a disqualification.
You know, it's so complicated, and I'm just going to say it. You know, Dan Mergliotta is at the center of a lot of these.
Yes.
You know, and
we
people-
had this conversation before. Like
People don't want to talk about it. People, Big Dan is this big. You know, I get it, but Big Dan was at the center of the Gegard Mousasi one with
Correct.
Weidman. He has been at the center of a lot of these. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he at the center of Poirier and Alvarez too, or was that?
I think that was Steve Mazzagatti.
No, definitely not. Steve
No, it wasn't.
Mazzagatti has not refereed.
No, sorry.
That
Not
might have
Steve.
been Big John.
It was Big John.
But, you know, Dan Mergliotta has been at the center of a lot of these. He said he didn't see. Let me tell you, there's still pictures of him looking right at it. The illegal knee.
It's, you know,
Let's talk about the elbows for a second, okay?
Yeah.
Now, my issue with those, were some of those borderline on the side of the back of the head? Clearly, yes. I don't really have too big of an issue with those because in the heat of the battle, you're throwing elbows, you're trying to maneuver your elbow as you're throwing it, and your opponent is moving out of the way.
that's
So
just too difficult of a strike to try to avoid.
or to try to mitigate, to try to call, to try to
Yeah.
ref. So I don't really have a problem with some of those, maybe of grazing the back of your head or glancing. That's fine with me. To me, fine, let that go. That is a borderline call.
Yeah.
That, you know, it could have easily, if he was moving one way, whatever. But the knee,
That one was it was just way too flagrant.
well, it was flagrant. But what Stevens totally admits to throwing it, and what he
Yeah.
says is, I waited for his hand to come up. What he says is, Dan Mergliotta told me in the back, if he has one hand up, I can knee him in the head.
Yeah, I remember him saying that. That's why I was going by those rules.
So who's confused? So is Dan Mergliotta really telling people wrong
Fighters?
stuff? Or is Jeremy Stevens confusing rules here? Because Josh Emmett was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, and Ariel asked him, what did Big John say to you? And he said, Big John told me we're under the new rules, which means if you have a knee down, you cannot knee them. So Big John told him the right rules. So clearly Jeremy Stevens is confusing two rules here. So he keyed up for a knee. There's no denying that he's admitting
Yeah,
it.
he's
Jeremy Stevens is not a dirty fighter. Listen, if we're going to take anything from this, we need to fix the rules. Jeremy Stevens is not a dirty fighter. This is just an unfortunate situation. It's a
Yeah.
shitty situation for everybody.
Because, you know, it takes away from an actual amazing performance of
Isn't that
Jeremy
right?
Stevens.
And it's
Jeremy
one of the best
Stevens.
knockouts, most violent, vicious knockouts.
Oh my God,
And I don't think he needed to throw, listen, the flying form that he landed a la Dan Henderson, awesome. Okay, I
Yeah.
love it. But the second one, he didn't need to do.
No.
I'm not mad at him for it. But listen, if he would have shown restraint with that second one, some guys do that, you know.
Yeah, some guys
and
definitely. Sam
that-
Alvey did it.
I would have been fine with that. But I'm not even that mad that you threw that one. Okay,
No.
I'm not even that mad at you.
It's that knee.
It's the knee. And he didn't do it maliciously. He clearly thought he was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
He was waiting for the hand to go up.
And also
And he measured a
reflexes.
knee.
And reflexes, honestly, if you really look at it. But that's not the only knee that's ever gone past, because you remember the Anderson Silva Chael Sonnen knee against the fence.
Mm-hmm.
That was flagrant as God. No, that was a downed opponent if I've ever seen one. And he just nailed him. And that was one of the key things that led to that knockout.
They need to fix it,
the-
man, these
the-
rules.
I believe we should just let them knee each other on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I say honestly,
Bring back pride rules.
Bring back some pride rules.
Stomps and everything.
That's a little too much for me because I felt those stomps were a little overgrown. Like, I feel knees to a true downed opponent. Now, what I mean by a true downed opponent is if he is 2 knees, like he is down, like no hands and everything on the ground, I slightly have a problem. And then if he's on his back, when you see those guys who are on their back getting kneed, that one's a little brutal for me. Like when they're in a crucifix.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh no, that's not right. That hurts.
Hey, Apollo, did I ever tell you at the time I met Dan Marugliato's mother?